stood up a little taller than before. He walked to the front of the classroom with a little bit more confidence than before. That young man in my Intro to African American Studies class had sat quiet all semester long. But that day, he spoke with a newfound boldness. Now, the assignment was to select one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, research it, and use it to apply to a problem or a challenge facing society at that time. And he had chosen Kuchichagalia, which means self-determination. He stood up, introduced himself. He said, "Hi, my name is," and then he gave us his African name. Who knew? Until that moment, no one knew it. He told us that he had hidden his African heritage and had taken on an American-sounding name and had abandoned his African roots. But somewhere during that semester, something switched, something shifted, and he discovered the greatness of Africa and of his people's past. And as he concluded, he said, "I will name myself. I will define myself. I will speak for myself." And let me tell you, when he had finished, there was not a dry eye in the room. Now, Kwanzaa is often associated with an African American holiday, and it is. However, the principles of Kwanzaa are universal. Let me quickly tell you what they are. Umoja, which means unity, promoting unity in our families, our communities, our country, and our ethnic groups. Then there's Kuchichagalia. Kuchichagalia means self-determination, as I've already said. And it means to stand up for yourself, to define yourself, to speak for yourself, to name yourself. Ujima. Ujima is collective work and responsibility, which means to work together to address societal problems and solve them together. Ujamaha. Cooperative economics, to work together to build, maintain, and support Black business. Nia, purpose, to remember to restore our society back to its original greatness, its original traditional greatness. Kuumba, creativity. It's our responsibility to work together to leave this world, our communities, better than when we had inherited it. And finally, Amani, faith, to believe in our people and their ability to strive forward and in the righteousness of our struggle. Now, during the season of Kwanzaa, we greet one another with the words Habari Gani. And Habari Gani means, what's the news? And as I think about that story, I think about the greatness and the vitality and the need for the griots of West Africa. You see, it was their responsibility to tell the news about the greatness of African culture, the heritage of the village. They were the drumbeat of the memory of the village and the wisdom of the ancestors. So the griots served a major purpose. Remember, Habari Gani means, what's the news? Now, while during the season of Kwanzaa, the respected or expected response is the principle for that particular day. Well, today I come to tell you the news is this. Long before there were microphones, long before there were stages, there were the griots. the griots who indeed maintained the history in society, the griots who captured the essence of all that made the people great and made sure that their cultures, values, and stories were passed down from generation to generation to generation. So, today, I come to you as a griot, not from Africa, and not just for one people, but a griot rather for all people, because you know the story of humanity is a shared story. It is our story, the good and the bad, the awful and the pleasant, bound together. And so as we continue the rest of our journey together, we're going to start off with an overview of Africa and some of its challenges and glories. And then I'm going to present to you or invite you to embrace 3 specific imperatives. I imagine that as Africans were being kidnapped and ripped from the continent, they had many questions. Where are we going? Who's taking us? And what fate lies ahead? Would the griots survive to tell the story? And if not, who would tell the story? Who's going to tell the story of our greatness, of our inventions, of the mathematical numbers that we developed to count, of science, of inventions, of our religions, of our culture? Who's going to tell the story of our greatness, that Black history is world history? And who's going to tell the story of our experience on this sordid, unexpected, and unplanned trip of our captivity and of our enslavement? Now, that part of the story is not just Black history. As a matter of fact, it's not the totality of Black history, and it's not even where Black history begins. Slavery is actually Black history and white history. It is about the enslaved and the enslaved both. It is about the resilience and the responsibility. It is your story and my story combined together. It is the story of a shared people. And if we dare to face it together, then together we can heal it. Today, I invite you to embrace 3 imperatives. 1, deliberately protect your story. It empowers you. Be dogmatic about preserving your culture, not just celebrating it. And be very intentional about walking in your history in pride. It will help you to promote your purpose. As a matter of fact, that's why Griot Speaks was born. It was born to empower people. It was born to preserve culture. And it was born to promote purpose. So let's talk about those 3 things. Let's start off with empowerment. Now, your stories need to be protected in order to empower you and me and others. The African griot says, until the lion tells the story, the hunter is always going to be the hero. Let me put it to you this way. If we don't protect and tell our own story, someone else is going to tell it for us, and they can twist it, they can bend it, they can erase it. And then what happens? So it's important that we protect our stories. Let me share my experience with you. I was born to a family of 7, 2 parents and 5 siblings. And the family was struggling. They had moved to a different state from where my birth parents, their parents lived and where their siblings lived. And so when they got pregnant with me, there was a lot of embarrassment, there was a lot of shame, and they lived in abject poverty. And so they hid my mother's pregnancy and my birth from the rest of the family in another state. And I was born, and when they knew that they had a choice, and they decided to adopt me out. Now, they hid me. They hid the story of me, but my siblings remember, the two older ones, and they protected the story. In 2019, I was able to reunite with my family, my birth family, via DNA, ancestry DNA. And because they had protected my story, because they had shared the story with their children and their children's children, even though my parents never talked about it, when I reached out to them, they knew who I was. Their children's children knew my story. And I was empowered with a new sense of self as a result of that. It's important to protect the stories so that we are empowered. Preserving culture, not just celebrating. Culture is the song of our being. Culture is the drumbeat of what we're doing. Culture moves us forward, and it's our job to protect it and preserve it. The African griot says, it talks about the Sankofa bird. Now, the Sankofa bird moves forward. It's a mythical bird that moves forward and looks backward, carrying an egg. It does that to protect culture. That's critical. And finally, we have promoting purpose. When we live our history in pride, we promote our purpose. I can remember a time when I was going through a really difficult time after a very long, successful career. And I had to eventually get on public assistance. I was filled with shame. But I remembered the resilience of my people, and that got me through. I had pride in what my history had taught me. So I invite you to do the same. Remember your story. Take pride in it. Your story can live on and on and on. It does not die. Because remember, now, you are the griot too.